Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to be making the recipe on the cover of Dinner in French, Melissa Clark's one of her books, because my daughter requested it. She requested this with some modifications, which we are not going to do because that's not what we do on this channel. But next time, if there is a next time, we might make the modifications that she requests. But today we're going to be making, it is an asparagus, goat cheese, and tarragon tart. So my daughter and I are going to love it. My husband is maybe not so much. He's not a fan of goat cheese, but it is what it is, and that's what we're going to have. I'll add some other stuff for dinner too. I think I'm going to do some salad as well. But this is sort of a large pizza-like tart, not a sweet tart. Obviously, asparagus, goat cheese, all that. I think I have everything prepared. Fingers crossed. But we start with an egg. This is supposed to be at room temperature. It's been out for a couple hours. And I got some shell in there. All right. So we just need to, I'm going to whisk this up first before we add other things to it. That's good. Now to this, I'm going to add the goat cheese. This is also supposed to be at room temperature, so I just set them both in this bowl and left them out. There we go. So to this, we are also supposed to add some garlic. This was grated on a microplane, which I used for several of the ingredients here. We'll get the rest of that off later. We need some tarragon. We're not huge fans of tarragon, but I'm going to try it. We'll see if we like it here, and I'm going to measure it and see if I have enough. This is all I have. We're just going to see if we have enough, and if it's too much, I'm not going to put it all in, just in case. Yeah, we don't have quite as much as she calls for. It calls for quite a bit. So that's fine. We also need to add some lemon zest, which is, we have a little bit more than necessary. Some salt, and she does specifically ask for fine sea salt. So for this part, I am going to use what she says to use. And a little bit of freshly grated nutmeg. So I'm going to go get that microplane. Actually, I'm going to get a different one because I don't want my nutmeg to be garlicky. And this I'm not going to measure because it just says a pinch. That should be plenty. Yes, I have everything in there. And she says first to start with a fork to get this stuff combined. The goat cheese will kind of stick and just needs to be worked through a little bit. Now we're going to switch back to the whisk. Try to get as much off my fork as possible because that's just the kind of person I am. And we're going to add some creme fraiche. So I happened to make a bit of this, like a quart. I usually make a quart at a time. And I had some that needed to be used up, and that's one of the reasons we're making this recipe today. And we're just supposed to whisk this all up together, get it all mixed up. All right. This is sort of the sauce portion of our tart, and we're just going to set this aside and clean up a little bit because now we need to make the tart portion. So I'm not actually making the dough. we are using pre-made puff pastry dough, which is great. I've made puff pastry before, and you can absolutely use that if you want to. Do that. I'll link the recipe that I made up here. It wasn't as hard as I expected, but this is still really cold from the refrigerator. I think it's supposed to be thawed if frozen, but she doesn't say that it needs to be room temperature. But, because usually you want to bake these from cold, but it's kind of cracking, which I don't think it did the last time I did this, but maybe I should have taken it out. Anyway, this comes on a baking paper, but I'm going to put it on this paper because I know the size I need. I don't like the cracking in relation to the size of this brown paper. So I'm just gonna, all right, I'm gonna flip it over onto this paper, and honestly, it's about the size that I need already. She says to roll it out using a little bit of flour, but I just wanted to go ahead and roll it out on here, on the baking paper that I'm going to use on my tray to bake it on, because she said you roll it out and then you put it on the paper, and I just didn't want to do all that. And then I don't need to add extra flour. Just kind of there. So now I'm going to put this on the cookie sheet, throw this stuff away. This is a lot easier than trying to transfer it when it's all sticky. That'll work. Now I need a knife. Now, we're supposed to lightly score a 1/2 inch border along the edges, just to sort of give it, it's almost like a crust. That's where we are not going to put our saucy stuff. It's a little more, it'll be fine. And that area will puff up more, I believe, in the oven. The outer crust side. Okay. Now we need all of this creme fraiche mixture onto our tart. Seems like an awful lot, but I'm just going to go with it because that's what the recipe says, to put it all on here. There we go. And we're just gonna, I'm gonna go get my offset spatula because that seems like the right tool for the job. I only have one of these, and but when it's useful, it is so useful. When it's the right tool, it works very well. So we're going to spread that inside that border that we created. Okay. It's a pretty thick layer of filling there. Now I have some asparagus spears that I trimmed sort of the woody ends off of, and she specifically asks for thin ones because they're going to cook with the tart. And so I'm just going to try to arrange these on top. There's a lot of them though. I lost a lot from the trimming because I think they were very woody. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. she does say to brush these asparagus spears with olive oil. I'm going to spray them because I happen to have an olive oil sprayer and it just seems like a lot less work. And I'm not going to be spreading all that creamy stuff all around on top. Not that it matters, but. So I'm just going to spray the top with olive oil and that will be fine. It's definitely less than she calls for, but it's fine. Now, she also says to sprinkle this with some salt. I'm not going to use the sea salt because I like to sprinkle with the kosher salt. So I'm just going to use a little bit of kosher salt. And then we have some grated Parmesan cheese. We have some more Parmesan cheese that I still have in the refrigerator for, I assume, after it comes out. Yep. So I'm just going to sprinkle this as evenly over the top as I can. There we go. And now we're going to bake this. My oven is heated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to bake this for 25 to 30 minutes until the pastry is puffed and golden. And then we'll be back and show you what it looks like when it comes out. And we also have a little bit more to do after it comes out. So 25 to 30 minutes and we'll see you. This tart came out of the oven 15 minutes ago because she says to let it sit for 15 minutes before you do anything. It seemed very brown, a little bit browner than hers, but I'm sure it's fine. And we're supposed to top it with some things now. I'm going to start with some black pepper, and I've got this because I just kind of wanted it a little bit coarser than my other grinder is usually set to, and I didn't want to fix it. We're also going to put some shaved Parmesan on here, and this was a lot, and I think it's probably a little too much. So I might not use all this. Now, she does say you can use other herbs if you don't like tarragon. You can use mint or basil or basically whatever you like instead. This was just shaved with a vegetable peeler, basically. So, I'll just use it all. Why not? And then we're also going to put a little drizzle of olive oil on here. Put as much or as little as you like. She says you can let this sit for up to 4 hours before you eat it. So this is something that could be served warm like it is now or at room temperature. We're going to plate this up with some salad, and this is going to be our dinner for tonight. Oh, also you can use some crushed red chili peppers, chili flakes. I'm going to let that be up to the individual because I know my kids don't want it, and I probably don't want it either, but my cameraman back there will probably add some to his. So we will show you what it looks like after we cut it up. We're going to cut it into 8 pieces just because we have a family of 4. She says it serves 6 to 8, so we'll see. And we'll let you know what we think in just a minute. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make asparagus, goat cheese, and tarragon tart from Dinner in French, Melissa Clark's book. It is the picture here on the front. And I think this was a great recipe. It was super easy, especially considering you use a pre-made puff pastry dough. It cooked in time. I think we took ours out exactly at 25 minutes because it was pretty brown at that point. And it was able to be, you could pick it up and it didn't flop and you could eat it like that. So it would be a great sort of party food that you could eat with your hands without making too much of a mess. It was a little difficult to cut because the asparagus was kind of difficult to cut, but that's okay. I started with a pizza cutter, but ended up just using a knife, which was a better idea. Ours didn't end up looking quite like this one because the sauce sort of puffed up around the asparagus, but it was fine. It was still delicious. It was very tasty. My daughter likes arugula on her pizza, so I think you could do this sort of without the asparagus and then lightly dress some arugula with like lemon juice and olive oil and put it on top after it comes out with the Parmesan, and that would also be delicious. I didn't really get the tarragon. It was not an overwhelmingly licoricey flavor in here. I didn't have quite as much as she calls for, and I couldn't put extra on top because I didn't have that. So I put it all into the sauce mixture, the goat cheese sauce mixture. It was okay for my husband, who does not like goat cheese. He still ate it, did not complain, so that's good. And yeah, I think it's a great, easy recipe that, you know, is kind of impressive. So if you've enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments down below if you try this or a similar recipe that I could try. And then you can come back and watch me make something else next week.